So many games that I want to play on the channel. I wish I had some sort of guidance to help me decide. Well, that's a start. Greetings fellow flatcaps and welcome to the Spectrum. When I was looking at Pong last episode, I said, throughout the 70s, Pong was remade, republished and reimagined in many different ways, many different times. It even helped develop the Breakout game. But funnily enough, I said that, forgetting that Breakout was in fact entry number 3 in the book. As was stated, Breakout was inspired by Pong. It was created by Nolan Bushnell, Steve Wozniak, and Sweet Mutton Chops, Steve Bristow. Okay, that nickname is a lie, but those are some sweet mutton chops. It was released in 1976 and became the 5th highest earning arcade game of that year, then the 3rd highest in 77, before dropping down to 8th in 78. Unlike Pong, however, Breakout wasn't as popular. While it is a favourite of 70s arcade fans, its history isn't as successful or even strange as Pong's is. On the other hand, it did play a part in inspiring one of the most popular games of all time, Space Invaders. That one's going to be fun to talk about when we get to it. But today is Breakout, so let's have a look at Breakout. In a moment. We're actually heading back to 1974, before Breakout's even been released, to have a look at another game that helped inspire it called Clean Sweep. Ramtek's Clean Sweep was an arcade game where players use a ball to clear the screen of other balls. I wasn't able to play the original, but once again, I found a version with better graphics online. And once again, it's still weird to say that about a game that's just balls and lines. It even features the same ear-grinding noises of the time era. To start the game, you need to launch the ball yourself. It will fly upwards and clear a few of the balls for you. The controls are as simple as Pong is. You need to move your paddle back and forth to hit the ball as it comes back to you. It's not as simple as it sounds to play, however. You don't have complete control over the ball, so trying to get the right angle to meet your need isn't down to skill, but luck. Even charging into it has no effect on its trajectory. If the ball gets by you, you lose one of your 6 lives and get to relaunch the ball. Unfortunately, it takes the same path every time, so no extra balls gobbled up here. There's also a mechanic in the game that will catch you off guard if you aren't aware of it. Every 4th hit of the ball speeds it up to try and make you lose a life. Sometimes you get lucky and it comes straight back to you, so if you manage to finish a level, the game just resets, and you carry on until you die. Some of you, from what I have said, will instantly see how much this compares to Breakout. The same motif, the similar design, even the same 4th hit rule. But the differences will also be as obvious. There are also some differences in both the arcade and the Atari 2600 version that you're seeing here. In the arcades, Breakout was black and white, but colour strips of cellophane were placed over the screen to show the different colours. The Atari could do both at the flick of a switch. Shit! What's more, the Atari port had not 1, not 2, but 12 different modes of play. Don't let that fool you though, the modes don't vary that much. Accessing them is awkward, but understandable due to tech limitations at the time. The Atari had 4 switches on it that could manipulate the game you were playing in different ways. In the case of Breakout, you could change it from colour to monochrome, as I mentioned before. But you could also use these to access other modes. To do so, you would need to flick one switch to manipulate these numbers. The left number was the game type, and the right number was the number of players. Then when you have the combination you want, you then had to reset the console to start it up. So what are the different modes? Mode 1 is standard. Hit the thing to hit that thing to get the scores. 2. Fuck physics mode, where after hitting the ball, you can manipulate it by moving your paddle. Handy for getting the angle you need to hit those awkward blocks, just be sure you can actually reach it on the way back down. Mode 3 looks a lot like Mode 1, except I'm breaking it a bit. Mode 4, the bricks are only visible when you hit them, yet this was the one I did best of out of the 4. From here on, the 4 games repeat themselves in rotation, meaning that Mode 5 is another Mode 1, Mode 6 is Fuck Physics mode again, Mode 7 is Mode 3, Mode 8 is Can't See Shit mode, then cycles once more for numbers 9 through 12. However, every rotation will change the rules ever so slightly that you won't notice them the first time around like I did. After reviewing the footage, I did actually spot them. So in rotation 2, the scoring system is changed so that you're given 1 point per second of real time. So I could just sit here, do nothing, and gain points with a false sense of achievement? Sign me up! Let's take a look at the end of the video and see how much I earned. Finally, rotation 3 makes your paddle shrink as time goes on. Insert your own low-hanging fruit dick joke here. However, it adds another rule that means your ball is now the most destructive force in the universe and tears through everything, all while gaining speed, being near impossible to keep up and control depending on what mode you're playing. Of the two, which do I prefer? I'm going to have to go with Breakout. The concept is a lot easier to play, and the random element of the ball bouncing off your paddle doesn't have as much of a negative impact as it did in Clean Sweep. It also outperformed Clean Sweep in the arcade. While Clean Sweep became one of the most top 10 best-selling arcades in 1974 then faded into obscurity, Breakout won multiple awards and continued to find success in the US and Japan. So, like Pong, where does it go from here? In one of its earliest forms, it's already started to pull off multiple game modes, whereas Pong took several years and consoles to have variety to it. So it already had the upper hand there. Despite this advantage though, it hasn't had a whole bunch of remakes or sequels to it. It did have a sequel in 1978 named Super Breakout. Also ported to the 2600, Super Breakout was, for the most part, the same game, but of course it had a few improvements and changes to it. More refined graphics, what looks like to be a better frame rate, and this time only has 9 modes to choose from. Similar to its prequel, the modes repeat themselves, swapping between 1 and 2 player versions. Accessing them is the same, you press one switch to scroll through them, but now it updates in real time. Decide which you want and then press the reset switch. Oh, the reset button makes noise. The reset noises aren't just for show. Every noise symbolises a different soundtrack that plays during the game. Scrolling through the modes, every odd number was a single player version and evens were 2 player. So looking at the single player modes only, Mode 1 is a standard Breakout. Mode 3, Doubles mode, where you get to control double paddles and double the balls. Mode 5, like Doubles, only this time you can get more balls by freeing one trapped in their boxes. You could actually call that Breakout.
Kill yourself.
One of the balls is a darker yellow and wasn't captured on the recording, but it is there, I promise you. I'll prove it. Mode 7, Tetris mode. After a set amount of time, or hits maybe, a new row of bricks is added to the screen. Do well enough in this mode and you can give your Atari an orgasm. Then it flips the script and Mode 8 is a single player game, as was 7. This is just the first game again. No shrinking panel, no natural skull increase, nothing. So it features the same mode twice, although do comment if I am wrong about this. All in all, it's the same game with more imaginative game modes to choose from. This however would be one of, if not the, last time we would hear about Breakout for a long time. Clones of Breakout began to be spat out regularly, taking away from the niche of Breakout until it joined the Clean Sweep in obscurity, while its motif continued to live on. But not for much longer, until the niche also fell out of popularity. But do not worry, dear viewer, this isn't the end of the story for Breakout, as it found new legs with a new name. Ten years after Breakout's release, Taito enters the scene with their game, Arkanoid. Created as a contest entry within Taito, Arkanoid took the Breakout motif and added its own features of power-ups, enemies, and even a small plot to the mix. Making appearances in the arcade and later on the MS-DOS, It became the highest grossing table arcade cabinet of 1987 in Japan and the highest grossing conversion kit in the US of the same year. Critics praised it for its improvements over the Breakout game, and I completely agree with them. Let's take a look at both the arcade and the DOS versions and see what made players and reviewers all agree for once. You know, before the days of IGN. Concerning what they get similar first, they feature the same plot. You play the role of a pilot flying the Vaus? Vors? Veus? The paddle. That's you. That's what you're flying. The Arkanoid was your mothership and you escape on the paddle only to be trapped in space by someone. Then the game starts. Who trapped you and why? No idea. The game doesn't even know when this story is supposed to happen. Both of them play the same way. Use your paddle to knock the ball back and forth until all the screen is cleared and move on to the next level. Enemies will try and stop you from advancing, and while they can't kill you, they can affect the way the balls fly. Truth be told though, I only managed to complete a level once, because sometimes I didn't need to. While playing the game, destroying a block has a chance to drop you a power-up. They are hard to get because sometimes they are too far away to catch it and the ball at the same time. Considering the fact that you lose whatever power-up you have at the time, when you die, fondling the ball is always priority over fondling a pickup. When you do get one though, it can be a real game changer, or hindrance depending on what and when you get it. Each power-up is symbolised with a letter, and in the arcade version there's a colour that accompanies it as well. Only one can be activated at a time, with some exceptions. I don't know the names of them exactly, so I'm going to make them up. L is for laser, my favourite one as it allows me to blow up blocks with lasers formed from hot plasma and rage. Oh, we will get to the rage, trust me. C stands for catch, and that allows you to catch the ball and fire it at your own leisure. D stands for duplicate, which means that the ball's split into three. Both your best friend and worst enemy. S means slow and acts differently depending on the version. The arcades will slow the ball down for a while the DOS version slows down the ball until you die. E means elongate and lengthens your paddle. P means player, granting you an extra life. And my second favourite and final power-up is B, that stands for bye bitch. It opens up the gate at the right side of the level, allowing you to just bypass it altogether. When it comes to differences, the arcade version first and foremost can go fuck itself. It's an unapologetic cheating fuckrag that loves screwing you over any chance it gets. Before I get into that, let's get the obvious out the way first. The arcade looks tons better than the DOS version does. That isn't to say the DOS version looks terrible, it looks good considering its tech, but comparing them side by side you can see why some people would be attracted to one over the other. The arcade is brighter, has more detail, better animations and sounds. When it comes to gameplay, I feel that the DOS version is a lot better in most situations. Now, don't get me wrong, both of these games are hard and a challenge, but bear in mind one of them has the goal of milking your wallet and the other does not. The arcade version is very stingy with its power-ups. It wasn't too often I was getting a power-up, while in comparison to the DOS version, it felt like a grandma who was spoiling me. In the first level of both, the arcade dropped between 4 to 10 power-ups for me, while the DOS version gave me 5 to 6 every time. But then in level 2, the arcade only dropped 4 to 6, while DOS dropped 8 to 13, which included a metric fuckton of extra lives and a level skip. Thank you, Grandma DOS! The enemies also act different too. The arcade will have the enemies travel across the screen to get in your way, while the DOS keeps them at the top as a way of teasing bonus points. The last thing that makes DOS better is that it doesn't cheat. The arcade version makes a constant habit of making the ball phase through your paddle. Way too fucking often! It's not just the balls either, pickups are constantly missed despite the fact I put my paddle balls deep inside them. Because of this bullshit, I never made it past the second level, so if you want to play this, do yourself a favour and play it with Grandma DOS. Arkanoid went on to have several sequels, with its latest release in 2015 being a crossover with Space Invaders. What of Breakout though? During the reign of Arkanoid, more Breakout clones came and went, But Breakout continued to watch from the shadows until one day in 1996, it hit the scene again like a has-been celebrity trying to be relevant again, with the release of Breakout 2000 on the Atari Jaguar. The Atari Jaguar hasn't had the best reputation as a console. While it boasted to have the most advanced graphics of its time, it was quickly debunked just by looking at its catalogue of games. It did have the power to be a leading force in gaming when it came to graphics, but because game designers had never even heard of 64-bit graphics, no one knew how to program or even make such a game, so the Jaguar aimed too high and gave itself further to fall. There were some decent titles on the system, however. Maybe Breakout is one of those titles? It's Breakout with a new 3D perspective, which, I will be honest, makes it a lot easier to play. I at least found it much easier to judge the angles of the ball. The game features two modes, 2000 mode and Classic for those who need to scratch that nostalgia itch. The Classic mode is just a recreation of the original with only 2 levels before it ends. The 2000 mode is the reimagining of the original, along with a new angle. It also has a space aesthetic now and includes power-ups. Wait a minute? That sounds very familiar. Intentional or not, Breakout certainly looks like it's taken inspiration from its offspring. While trying to be its own thing, and for the most part it does it adequately. Its presentation is much different and there was some effort put into updating it. In doing so, they changed some of the aspects of the game that could have been a hit or a miss with fans. There's a fair amount of power-ups to be found in the game. Instead of breaking blocks to get them, they are thrown at you randomly by robots or a UFO. Sometimes they cock-tease you by showing up and not doing anything. Sometimes they throw the power-ups, and sometimes the UFO takes shots at you. What a prick. Take enough of those shots and you lose the ability to play, until you die, where you're reset. There's an inconsistency as to when you get the power-ups. You could play a level being showered with them, then another, they rarely appear, and then another where nothing comes at all. This isn't a case of as you progress they get less and less. Sometimes I've played the first level and there was nothing at all, and then played it again later and there was abundance of power-ups. Even what power-ups are inconsistent. I tried 3 times to get footage of this game and 2 of those videos corrupted, but during each of them, I saw new power-ups I'd never seen before in an hour's worth of footage each. As to what the power-ups do? It's not always clear, and during my time playing I wasn't able to find all of them, but I was able to discern that green is good, red is bad, and orange is maybe good or bad. The only orange one I did find sped the ball up, so that could help, it could not, all depend on the situation. Some of the power-ups are simple, like granting you an extra life or skipping a level. Some are passive, like the blue ball of death that destroys blocks, and some of them you have to actually activate, like the plasma slingshot. Which is OP, as I can easily just sit here and keep shooting the blocks until I win, like a Space Invaders on a budget. A rather unique function of the game is that there's also a kind of scale mechanic to the power-ups. Sometimes when you do get a power-up, a symbol lights up on your HUD. These ones will last until you lose a life. Collecting a green version of one of these power-ups is positive and a red one is a negative. Collect too many red ones and then you get a negative version of the power-up. For example, if you got the magnetized power, then the ball will be attracted to your paddle. Collect a red magnetized one while you have this active and it resets you back to default. But then collect another red one while you're at default and it will begin to repulse instead of attract. These power-ups and the way they are used are a welcome and enjoyable addition to the game. On the flip side, the level designs lack at the start of the game. Where Arkanoid varied the levels quite a bit, 2000 makes little effort to do so. Level 1, normal Breakout. Level 2, add a whole new layer. Level 3, remove a few blocks. These tiny changes make the first few levels feel kind of samey. Until you get to level 5 where there's a bonus Pong round against an AI for bonus points. Then level 6 gives a drastic change to the level design and the look of the background, as the actual designs begin to get more complicated from now on. So while the levels seem a little lazy at first, they are still engaging enough. But the music is one of its failing points. The music is on a loop, but it does have an end to it, meaning if you play long enough, you'll be left with this. The voices in my head brought on by depression are no substitute for music. There's also a, to steal a term from Borderlands, co-opetition mode that is unique in its presentation. A second player joins you in your journey to destroy all these blocks. Both of you need to clear your partnonent's side of the blocks before moving on to the next level. The catch is that your ball will roll along the back wall and assist your partnonent in their goal of beat working with you. Overall, the game is alright. It's just tried to copy off Arkanoid and kind of mimic what made it good, but instead they missed the mark by a noticeable bit. It's okay, nothing more, nothing less. This wasn't Breakout's only attempt to get back into modern gaming though. In 2000, Breakout made the jump to PS1 and... oh no. Oh no. No, I'm getting flashbacks. It looks like the PS1 Pong game. Don't be the same developer. Don't be the same developer. Don't... Supersonic Software are back, and they weren't satisfied with just Pong. They needed to tackle Breakout too. Oh god, there's no point delaying this. Just gonna grit my teeth and drop him feet first into hell. Breakout, a story of Bat meets Ball, plays as a series of minigames at varying goals as you play through the story mode to save your kidnapped friends. Starting the single player campaign, the intro cutscene shows a bunch of paddles playing volleyball on a desert island. The dumbest of the group smacks the ball into the ocean and your character, Bouncer, goes to get it. And everyone loves Bouncer. When he comes back, his friends have vanished, kidnapped by the evil Batniks, whose voice doesn't match his look. Bouncer's girlfriend Daisy begs for help, but while laughing? I'm starting to think Daisy is one of those bitches that likes men fighting over her. What a skank! Bouncer is dragged off to prison. And the game starts in a prison cell. Ah, going with an Elder Scrolls opening, I see.
Let me see your face. Give me a...
While in prison, this guy, known as Coach Steele, begins to teach you how to play. First, he wants you to hit back at least 15 of the 30 balls he will send at you. Then he teaches you the more complicated aspects of the game. You can angle the shot of your ball depending on where and how it hits your paddle. Either run into it or use the ends to adjust its trajectory. To show you've mastered the technique, you need to break a total of 10 boxes. Now, you would think that's all there is to Breakout, right? They've improved on the original formula, so now you can get more control of the ball. There's nothing else you need. Is there? Just simply move back and forth and knock the ball? They did. They found a way to make Breakout unnecessarily complicated. The next task is to learn how to use Slice Mode. Pressing square will change your paddle from curved to straight, which results in mechanics now changing. When in this mode, curving the ball is harder unless you use one of two methods. The first is by moving as the ball hits you. Notice how in this mode, moving left or right tilts the paddle automatically, meaning the ball will change direction. Is that a pin-up poster of a Breakout paddle? There cannot be Rule 34 of Breakout, surely. Why is this a thing? I've never seen a game make the task of standing still risky. Honestly, right? Answers in the comments. When you need to change the angle of the ball, what looks easier to do? This? Or this? Method 2 is using the shoulder buttons to angle the paddle itself. Pressing R or L1 to angle it a bit, L or R2 to angle it more, and pressing both of them to maximise the angle. Not as complicated as having to do it with last minute movement, but I'm not gonna lie, it's actually quite handy when it works. Another issue I have with this mode is that when you move left and right, your paddle will automatically angle itself, meaning there's going to be cases where the ball will just slip by you. Oh, because that's not annoying at all. Using these newfound skills, you break your way out of prison by smashing the back wall in. Each chapter is made up of 4 challenges. Challenge 2 wants you to smash a hole in the back fence to escape. You need to smash enough boxes so that you can hit the back fence a set number of times. and then once you do, a gap opens and you can squeeze through. To help you achieve this goal, you can use power-ups, and they are shit. They don't last very long, and some of them make things worse. Even getting them is a pain in the right royal arse. Hitting one with the ball makes it roll to the bottom of the screen. If you're able to grab it, assuming the ball isn't taking priority, then you can use it with X. Some are useful, like the feather that slows down the ball speed. I think. It's not always clear what a pickup does. Most are potentially useful, like the face with a big nose that splits the ball in two, and the stretch that makes you longer, but not glitch-proof. Some of them are just complete dog shit. The boxing glove just hits the ball harder and makes it speed up. Not even so much as breaking multiple boxes at once, and the Harry Potter scar makes you shrink. Why would I want this? Oh, but it gets even worse when it comes to pickups. In some levels, the pickups are behind you. As usual, the ball needs to hit them to start them moving forward, but then it will roll only once and vanish. What shit is that? I have to move out of the way of the ball to get the pickup, but it can't just sit there and wait for me. Oh god, no. I have to be near it already by the time it does one roll, otherwise I'm going to miss it. What dumb fucks designed that? I'm only 2 levels in and this game is annoying me already. I wonder what fresh hell is in store for me on level 3. This game just turned into Crash Bandicoot. Okay, I didn't know exactly what to expect from this game, but a platform-esque style section was not one of them. As you might be asking, yes, it is also a pile of poorly designed rat shit. You hold X to run from the wolf. You can grab rocks to throw back at the wolf and slow it down. It's a necessity to do so, otherwise the wolf will kill you. How do you get these life-saving pebbles? By running into them. How do you know where they are? These signs indicate where they're going to be, so you can move to that side of the road and grab them. But can you always get them? No! It's so fucking easy to miss the stone because there's no way to tell what their exact position is. You have to play it by memory. Would it have been too much trouble to put a small blinking icon at the bottom of the screen here? This is a game from 2000 on the PlayStation 1. The Lion King was able to do this on a weaker console in 1994! Oh, this section is annoying me. To quote Nathan of NG+,
I'm gonna spit on this game's mum.
Frustrating as it is, the game features a fluctuating difficulty mechanic that means you can still advance even if you keep failing. In the corner of the screen is your current ranking. Succeeding in the level raises it and failing reduces it. The higher it is, the harder the game is, and the lower it is, the easier. So unless you're trying to stroke your ego or you're going for a 100% run, you can still make progress no matter what. It also needs to be said that this wolf is fucking ugly. If you remember the PS1 Pong game from the last episode, you can probably spot some of the same style being used, with some improvements. Some animations are recycled, while some new ones have been implemented, like the running animation. Yet the animals are still fucking terrifying. But the most terrifying animation of all is seen during the loading screens where Bouncer runs at you like an amateur creepypasta monster. The graphics, well, they are better than Pong, but not by very much. The levels look the same in terms of quality, but there is many different styles to the levels themselves, including the paddles which actually have character designs now. It is just the same game, in sound and in premise and graphics, the only difference mainly being its most basic of basic plot. Yet it's better than Pong? Truthfully, I enjoyed this more than I did Pong. It feels better put together, and some of the levels had me giggling at the absurdity of them. The rest of the game plays out where you're playing a series of minigames in different locations of the world. First I went to Egypt where I destroyed a wonder of the world, fought my way through a booby trap, solved a puzzle to get a key, fought against a mummy and saved my first friend... that guy. I honestly don't know his name and I don't care enough about the game to Google it, so I'm just going to call him American Man. Saving a friend has its benefits too. Pushing select during any level brings up a character select and each of the characters has their own strengths and weaknesses to them. During my playtime I unlocked American Man, who is bigger but slower than Bouncer, and Magnus, who slightly pulls the ball toward them. Then in the level after that I went to a farm where I had to round up some sheep using a doggo ball. Guys, so cute.
Betrayal.
Then I disturbed some chickens who were minding their own business and had to fight them as they came at me like a killer Jabberwocky routine. and then finished it off by sumo wrestling with some ducks on a raft in the middle of a lake. After I did that, I was able to save Magnus, only to be chased by that fucking wolf again, which felt even more like a Crash Bandicoot level. The game itself is a laugh, and like I said, it's better than the Pong title, but there's no way I'm going out of my way to play this again. This game would be re-released in 2001 or 2003 on the PC, depending on your source. Unfortunately, Breakout would not share the same path as Pong and have a Zelda-style dungeon crawler, though it did have a cameo in it. History would then repeat itself as a plethora of clones would fill the void, while Breakout wouldn't make another appearance until 2011 with Breakout Boost. Sadly, I wasn't able to try this one, but from watching some footage on it, it's an Arkanoid clone under the Breakout name. Then in 2013 was the 37th anniversary of Breakout, and to celebrate, Google made a playable Easter egg hidden in their image search. It was a neat little feature, minus the add of doom and gloom and the sounds that like to stab your ears. And then once again, a long absence would befall Breakout until February 10th, 2022, where it released its latest title, Breakout Recharged. Available on all of these platforms, Recharge is Atari's latest attempt to revive the series. It's been given a new look, a new soundtrack, new power-ups, new gameplay mechanics, and features to improve on the motif. It features 3 modes that vary slightly. Arcade, where you have 1 life to get as far as you can, Classic, where you have 3 lives but no power-ups, and Classic Recharged, which is arcade but with 3 lives. So what's new? Quite a lot actually, so much in fact that it's hard to think where to start. The beginning seems like a good place as any, so let's do that. So many games that I want to play on the channel. I wish I had some sort of guidance to help me decide. Well, that's a start. Greetings fellow flatcaps and welcome to the Spectrum. When I was looking at Pong, can you imagine if I actually went through with that? The first thing you'll notice is the radical change of visual style. The whole game looks like a stylized version of one of those old music player visuals. It plays the same animation loop over and over, but the colour scheme will fade into other styles as the game continues on. The graphics of the blocks are composed of neon light-like structures. That's a hard thing to say. Neon light-like structures. Some of which are animated, and anything that isn't just a white square has properties to them. It looks nice and flashy, but what about the gameplay? It's chaotically good. There aren't levels per se anymore. You have a set pattern of blocks you need to destroy. Take too long and the patterns move down by a row. Shortly after there's enough room, another pattern will appear on screen. This speeds up the gameplay significantly and adds a new level of challenge to the game. The power-ups you collect also make things a lot more interesting. Destroying a block with this symbol on it will slowly drop a power-up, giving you a better chance of catching it. Each one is rather unique and offers an amazing advantage while playing, but the new ones are very fun. I can only imagine someone sat at the meeting at Atari going, hey, you know what Breakout needs? Railguns! Indeed, Railgun is a weapon you can get and is probably the most powerful weapon in the game. Other power-ups include the triple cannon, the exploding ball, the orbital explosions, and the homing rockets, which turns this game into Call of Duty Breakout Warfare. Not all of them are guns, however. A very welcome trajectory path and a unique acting time warp are equally as helpful, but not nearly as fun to use. The blocks can also offer you an advantage when playing. The aforementioned power-up blocks are there of course, and there are ones that blow up the blocks around them. However, not all of them are your friends. Brick blocks will need to be hit twice, the USB ports will eject a block when hit, and the bullets and turrets result in the game fighting back with an instant kill if you are hit by one of their projectiles. These changes do breathe new life into the game and effectively make it stand out from its previous iterations as well as Arkanoid. Even the music contributes to this in its own way. While the graphics and the gameplay look very modern, the music sounds noticeably retro, potentially a callback to its roots. At least to me it does. Listening to it, it sounds like it would fit perfectly over an exercise video or an SNES game of the 90s. Overall, this game is a nice update for Breakout and quite enjoyable. The hit detection works well, the graphics are pleasant to look at, the gameplay is efficient, and any of these modes can be joined with a co-op partner. There is, however, one negative thing I do have to say. Sometimes success was my enemy. Earning an achievement on the Xbox, ever so helpfully, puts it in the way of my paddle. Damn you, success! So, what did I think of Breakout? While it may not have had as strange and a successful journey as Pong has, what it has done has been interesting to look at, seeing its ups and downs, its most recent attempts at relevancy, and how it's still inspiring people to create their own games today. But I need to decide on the original, and it's simple, it's effective, and that's all it needs to be, so I'm filing it under yes. What about you though? Do you love Breakout? Do you hate it? What are your memories of it? Was it part of your childhood? Do you want to try some of its later iterations? Let your thoughts be known down below. And while you do, I thank you for watching, and remember, you're always welcome at the Spectrum.